Everyone has long assumed that building better models required bigger budgets. And for years, the biggest advances came from companies who are willing to spend more on chips, data centers, and computing power. Then people came to believe that the most advanced models would always come with the highest price tag. That's why we see companies like OpenAI, Google, Meta, and Amazon have committed hundreds of billions of dollars to AI infrastructure. They are all betting that raw computing power would remain the key to staying ahead. Then Moonshot AI released Kimi K3. Instead of relying on larger computing budgets, it matched the reasoning performance of today's leading AI models while costing only a fraction as much to run. By making the model available under an open weight framework, Moonshot also showed that advanced AI didn't have to be expensive. And that change affected the entire market. If high-quality AI is no longer scarce, charging a premium becomes much harder. Companies like OpenAI and Anthropic have long justified higher subscription prices by offering capabilities few others could match. But as lower-cost alternatives continue to improve, that pricing power begins to weaken, forcing the market to rethink how AI should be valued. And that leads us to a bigger question. How was Moonshot able to deliver comparable performance at a much lower cost? After all, China wasn't supposed to have access to the world's best AI chips, and it spent only a fraction of what the US has invested. So how did it happen? Kimi has positioned itself right behind the latest versions of Claude and ChatGPT, among the most capable reasoning models available today. Until recently, reaching this level of performance required massive data centers and high-end processors. And China wasn't supposed to have access to any of that. Through the Pax Silica Initiative, the US and its allies have put export bans to cut Chinese companies off from the world's most advanced chips and machinery. On top of that, in 2025 alone, American private investment in AI reached about $286 billion, outpacing China's by 23 times. Yet despite spending far less and having limited access to advanced hardware, China's leading AI models now trail their American counterparts by just 2.7% in overall performance. One reason Kimi performs so well is that Moonshot designed it to use computing power work harder. Instead of activating the entire model every time someone asks a question, Kimi only uses the parts of the network it actually needs. Think of it like consulting a handful of specialists instead of calling the whole company into every meeting. Engineers call this a mixture of experts setup. That means for any given task, it only activates a handful of specialized submodels. When paired with a custom attention mechanism, they focus on the most important parts of the data rather than treating everything equally. This allows information to move through the network with speed and efficiency. In one demonstration, Kimi K3 designed a working computer chip from scratch in just 48 hours completely on its own. That demo immediately caught investors' attention. If AI could design computer chips using free open-source tools, it could eventually reduce the industry's dependence on expensive engineering software. So when the market learned about this, the shares of Cadence and Synopsys, the two American companies that control over 70% of the EDA software market, fell by roughly 9%. AI was no longer limited to writing code or answering questions. It was beginning to perform highly specialized engineering work that had long been dominated by established software providers. This breakthrough also drew immediate attention in Washington. A White House advisor accused Moonshot of conducting a large-scale campaign to reproduce American AI technology through data scraping and IP distillation. He also alleged that the company secretly accessed restricted NVIDIA servers to train its models. Whether those allegations are true or not, Moonshot has proven that competing at the frontier of AI is no longer just about spending the most money. It has become a race to build smarter and more efficient systems, and now they can compete with some of the best models from the West. But if advanced models is becoming cheaper to build, what happens to the companies whose entire business depends on charging premium prices? That question couldn't have come at a worse time for OpenAI and Anthropic. both of which are preparing for public listings. So before Kimi K3 was released, IPO contracts for OpenAI and Anthropic were already valued at over $1 trillion. But within days of the Kimi K3's announcement, investors began reassessing those expectations, and there was a heavy sell-off which wiped out nearly $400 billion in implied market capitalization across both companies. To justify those valuations, they now have to convince investors that clients will keep paying the same subscription fees even when cheaper ones do almost the exact same job. Like an OpenAI, for example, its valuation isn't based on what the company earns today, it's based on what investors believe it could earn years from now. The company is still losing billions of dollars every year while carrying roughly $665 billion in long-term commitments. According to current projections, they are not expected to become consistently profitable until around 2029 or 2030. So that means OpenAI must keep raising fresh capital, not just to expand, but to sustain its operations. Anthropic, on the other hand, may look better on the surface. The company has already reported its first operating profit of $559 million, making its business appear financially healthier. However, much of that gross revenue derived without deducting the cuts owed to its cloud partners. So if the SEC requires those costs to be recognized differently, then their top-line figures might fall significantly by up to 40%, putting severe pressure on the upcoming IPO. Kimi K3 also changed the mood in China's AI industry. Back in January, Chinese startups like Zhipu and Minimax went public in Hong Kong and raised hundreds of millions of dollars as their shares surged by 500%. But once Kimi K3 was released, investors became much more cautious and selective about where they put their money, making share prices across sectors fell, even for companies as large as Alibaba. Ironically, Moonshot itself emerged as one of the biggest beneficiaries. As confidence in Kimi K3 continued to grow, the company's estimated valuation climbed to nearly $50 billion. And it has since begun restructuring its offshore operations ahead of a potential listing on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange, hoping to capitalize on that momentum. Realizing just how far Kimi could alter the game, President Xi recently made a rare appearance at the World AI Conference in Shanghai. It was a clear signal that artificial intelligence was no longer just about technology or business. It had become a key part of China's diplomatic strategy. If Pax Silica represents the West's approach to AI, then President Xi introduced WAICO as China's alternative. Instead of asking developing countries to rent AI through expensive cloud subscriptions, the new alliance offers software that local engineers can host, customize, and run themselves. By rolling them out across regional blocs like ASEAN and the African Union, China is working to ensure that the next layer of the world's infrastructure gets built on standards set in Shanghai, not in San Francisco. And as more countries come to rely on these networks, this will greatly benefit China as it expands its influence and strengthens its economy back home. For governments and businesses around the world, this is no longer just about saving money. As AI becomes increasingly embedded in everything from banking systems to public services, depending entirely on technology controlled by another country has become a growing concern. If AI can now run on local infrastructure, countries no longer have to rely heavily on foreign providers. Instead, they can keep sensitive data at home while maintaining far greater control over their own digital systems. Looking back, much of this happened because US trade policy didn't go as planned. Their original goal was to slow China's progress by cutting off access to the world's most advanced AI chips in manufacturing. However, those restrictions forced Chinese engineers to find a different path that is more efficient. They adjusted the code to optimize the performance of mid-tier chipsets, and through open-source networks, China is now offering these platforms as a utility, giving emerging nations a direct route to digital autonomy. In the end, it is no longer about who owns the smartest model right now, but whose technology becomes indispensable to the global economy tomorrow. If you enjoy this, let me know in the comment below and make sure to check out our videos here. See you next time.